Good morning once again, and we are fortunate to have Vivian Neuharth with us. She's going to be sharing 2 health seminars with us, one right now and one right after lunch. Vivian has over 40 years of experience as a professional nurse, a healthcare management specialist, and a wellness practitioner. She has been a lifestyle coach for over 20 years on the personal and corporate level, and we are thankful that today she's at Lake of the Ozarks camp meeting. So Vivian, if you'd come up, we'll say a word of prayer, ask for the Lord's blessing on what you're going to share with us. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the gift of health that you give and that you promise as well as we do our best to follow your principles in our life. So I pray that you would speak through Vivian and the things that she has to share, and may it be for each of our blessing and better health. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. For starters, I don't like being on the stage because I like to be down by you, and we always sit in the back, don't we? And the 2 things I'm going to be talking about today are the things I struggle with: sleep and sugar. So we're going to all learn together today. But waking up to the importance of sleep. You know, drowsy drivers, it talks about here, according to the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety in 2022, drowsy driving led to at least how many thousand crashes? 100,000 crashes. Don't you wonder when you're out on the road, who is half asleep as you're out driving down the road? Yeah, so that's a lot of drowsy drivers, and about 1,550 were fatal. So how many are out there? So Proverbs 14:6 says, "A scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it, but knowledge is easy to him who understands." So we're going to learn today about how can we have better sleep. So, sleep is vital to health and should be considered as essential to healthy lifestyle as what? Exercise and nutrition. Did you realize that? Sleep is as important as that. And yet we struggle so much in our society, and we're going to learn why that is. So let's learn some facts on sleep. More than 70% of Americans are sleep deprived. Is anybody in here like that? Yeah. I know I don't sleep enough. I mean, and I know talking to some, it's challenging sometimes. We have so many distractions. At least 84 disorders of sleeping and waking. 50% of men and 40% of women in the U.S. snore. Do you know anybody that snores? And if you're the person who isn't the snorer, of course, sometimes your sleep can be disrupted. Caffeine, leading cause of sleep deprivation. We're going to have a little video clip on what caffeine does to sleep. 90% of depressed adults have sleep problems. For adults over the age of 40, 69% of men and 76% of women get up to go to the bathroom at least once per night. I'm in that category, and that is sleep disruptive. So prior to electricity, people went to sleep when? when the sun went down. We don't do that anymore, do we? Man, those lights are on and I've got to work and let me finish this, and we just stay up and get it done, don't we? Only 1 in 3 get enough sleep is what statistics say. Wow. Okay, we're going to talk today about anatomy, stages of sleep, caring for the frontal lobe. We're going to learn how important that is. Effects of sleep deprivation, why we need sleep, sleep thieves, how to get better sleep. I'll have you out of here by tomorrow morning, I promise you. Okay, enough sleep. No daytime sleepiness or dysfunction. Do you ever have that? Where you're not sleepy anytime during the day? Wow, we want to just be rested and refreshed when we wake up. Wake up without an alarm clock. I'm curious, how many here wake up without an alarm clock? Okay, there's several. That's awesome. Okay. Wake feeling refreshed and energized. Do you wake up, you're ready to fight the world? Yeah, of course, Renee. Of course. Of course. And rest is powerful. It gives the mind, body, and soul power to be. We should be refreshed, rejuvenated, regenerated, and rebuilt. That's what sleep should do for each one of us. So how much sleep do we need? Depends on our ages. So you look at there, you got your newborns, toddlers, school age, adults. So most of us in here should be that 7 to 9 hours a night. So hopefully we're getting close to that at least each night. In here, 30 to 40% of people sleep less than 6 hours a night. I do have a few nights like that, but rare. But we should, that's not healthy. And we're going to learn what happens to the body when you're not getting enough sleep. The anatomy, I found this fascinating. So I have all my references for all the material that's up here. But I've learned quite a bit from Barbara O'Neill, and I learned this from this one of her slides. The anatomy of the brain, the pineal gland, have you heard of that? It's the size of a kernel of corn. It's so little, and it's shaped in a pine cone, and it's at the center of the brain. And look at that. It's the first gland to develop during the human fetal development within 3 weeks of conception. Is that not fascinating? And we're going to learn in that little tiny pineal gland what's going on. There's 4 hormones that are made by that pineal gland. And when are these glands most effective? When is this happening the most? During the winter, we should be sleeping what hours? 9 to get to bed by 9. Because between 9 and 2 is when this pineal gland is most working. And in the summertime, we should be in bed by no later than 10. So from 10 to 3. So it's hard to go to bed in the summertime when it's still light out. I was in Alaska a couple times, and it's still light out at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's hard, Up there, the question was, when is it sundown? Anyway, another topic. So the 4 hormones that are released by that little pineal gland, which is how big? The size of a kernel of corn. And when is it made? 3 weeks. 3 weeks within conception. Incredible. So here's the hormones that are made. Melatonin, naturally released during sleeping hours. And when should we go to bed in the wintertime? 9, and in the summertime? Look at what you've learned already. I'm telling you. So it's stimulated in the darkness, chemical expression of darkness, and inhibited by light. So you want to be sleeping in a dark room. And it really peaks from 2 to 3 a.m., 5 to 10 times higher than daytime. Cannot be stored. Each day is a new supply. It's kind of like our spiritual walk, isn't it? We need to do that daily. We can't depend on what we did a week ago. So this hormone fixes and rejuvenates. So melatonin is really important. And it appears to slow the aging process. So we really want to have that, don't we? And the older we get, the less melatonin output we have. Isn't that depressing? Everything slows down when we get older, doesn't it? Natural light exposure in the daytime increases melatonin output at night. So we want to get exposed to the natural sunlight. Get out and get that walk. I know it's hot, but, get out and get walking, get that sunshine. Oh, here's a quote that we should all know. A quote by an author a century ago. Sleep is worth far more before than after when? Midnight. 2 hours of good sleep before 12 o'clock is worth more than 4 hours after 12 o'clock. Isn't that interesting? We have been given so much good counsel if we would only follow it. I like this one, the melatonin-rich foods. This is a good one to be looking at. I really liked coming across that. Foods that support the function of melatonin. What kind of foods are those? Do we see anything that quacks or growls or moos or baas at us in that group? It's all whole foods, isn't it? All God's natural foods in the garden. And serotonin, it's a mood hormone. And it keeps the human body running smoothly and impacts everything from basic bowel functions to higher brain processing. You want to feel good, get to bed early so we can have so far that melatonin and that, what? Serotonin. And then this arginine vasopressin, it's a natural painkiller hormone. Here too, if we're struggling with different ailments, we want to be getting to sleep on time so that here's another hormone that can be released. And epithelium, I wasn't as familiar with this one, but it's a hormone that increases learning capacity, and we should learn until we die. Yeah, people always say, I'm retired. There's no retirement in the Bible, is there? No, we need to be going till we die. It deteriorates when not in use, like a muscle. And this hormone slows down aging. As I was doing this study, it talked about these 90-year-old person, that wanted to learn to play piano. Just all these things as we get older, we should still be taxing and exercising our mind and keep it going. Stages of sleep. I found this fascinating. Back in the day, before all this research came out, people thought you go to bed and that's it. Nothing goes on upstairs. But boy, we have found out there is lots that is taking place when we're sleeping. So we're going to learn about non-REM. There's 4 stages in non-REM. Each one lasts 5 to 15 minutes. There's a sequence that we go through at night, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, and then back into REM. And REM sleep, children spend 50% of time here compared to 25% in adults. And we're going to learn more about this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because, it's just data, but it's just interesting that all this is going on when we're sleeping. And again, for REM sleep occurs about 90 minutes after the onset of sleep. And the first period for REM lasts about 10 minutes and then increases to about an hour. And the highest from birth to early childhood, and it's really important for brain development. So children, babies, what do they do a lot of? They sleep because their brain is developing and they need this. And again, our bodies cycle through these stages 4 to 5 times a night. All these stages are going on for all of us every night. Isn't that interesting? So time spent in these stages of sleep. So again, the 2 types we're going to talk about is non-REM and REM. And look at that, non-REM. We spend most of our time there and then a short time in the REM. So let's look at some of these. So non-REM sleep, stage 1, light sleep, easily awakened, eye and body movements slow down. Have you ever had it where you're just barely going to sleep and all of a sudden you jerk? That's called hypnic myclonia. Who comes up with those terms? I don't know, but that's what that is. So you can sound very intelligent the next time you just experienced hypnic myclonia. So anyway, so that jerky movement as you're just starting to fall into that first stage. And then we go into this non-REM stage 2. How many non-REM stages were there? 4. Okay, we're in 2. And there's this intermittent periods of muscle tone and relaxation. Heart rate slows down, body temperature goes down. You're getting ready to go into deep sleep. And about half of those 4 stages were spent here. And actually, did you know in this stage 2, you're paralyzed. You can't move. You're just paralyzed. And then stage 3 And it's the first stage of this deep sleep, and it's a slow wave or data sleep. Difficult to wake somebody up. Have you ever had it where you try to wake somebody up and they just don't want to wake up? So they're in that stage 3 or stage 4. And if they do wake up, they're kind of groggy. I used to work at the Union Pacific Railroad, part of my career, and I remember doing these classes. And this one guy told me when he was a little boy down in Mississippi, he would wake up in the middle of the night. He was 8, 9 years old, and he'd be walking down to the river, sound asleep, in the middle of the night. He just, man, you almost have to chain him down when you put him to bed, huh? Like he'd be off in the river or whatever. Anyway, sleepwalking occurs during this stage if people sleepwalk. And I've heard some crazy stories of things people are doing when they're sleeping. Like, what? Anyway, stage 4, it's the second stage of deep sleep. It's more intense than stage 3. Again, you have those delta waves. It's really hard to wake somebody up when they're in these stages. Blood supply to the muscle increases, heart rate decreases, blood pressure and respirations go down. This is when we have healing occurring in our body. The Lord knew we would need that deep sleep to heal. That's why it's hard to wake somebody up. The body is reconstructing in these stages. So that's where energy is restored. If stages of deep sleep are too short, you're going to feel tired. Even if the clock says you slept 8 hours, but you didn't go through those deep stages of sleep, you're still going to be tired. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What is robbing you of this sleep? So deep restorative sleep is considered the restorative part of sleep that's necessary for feeling rested and energetic during the day. So stages of sleep, again, REM sleep. Have you ever watched a little baby, newborn babies, and you just look at them? What are their eyelids doing? They're fluttering, aren't they? Their eyes are shut, but you can just see them moving. And so for us, too, we do that, adults. So during REM sleep, we have that rapid eye movement, and the brain is active. So dreaming is occurring during REM sleep. The filing system, the brain has this incredible filing system. Like when you're exposed to things during the day, when you sleep at night, all that is being categorized and filed in your brain. And that's happening here during REM sleep. The events of the day are brought to cortex, the outermost portion of the brain, the top of the cerebellum, divided into 2 hemispheres. And the brain knows how to file in order. And this is where inventions occur. When people, all these inventors, it's during this REM sleep, during this filing time. Isn't that interesting? Here too, our muscles are immobile, but the heart rate and blood pressures are going up. And it's very hard to awaken somebody too when they're in this REM stage. But here too, we can see why, because the body is trying to sort and categorize the day's events. Isn't that crazy? All this is going on when we're sleeping. It's like we thought we just went to bed and turned the lights off. But anyway, the frontal lobe, I want to talk to you about that. Really important. This is, I thought, interesting. The frontal lobe makes up 3 to 5% of a brain of a cat. They're not very smart, I'm telling you. But if you have a dog, 7% of their brain is frontal lobe. 17% in monkeys, chimpanzees, and look at how much for a human? 33 to 38% of our brain is the frontal lobe. Well, why is that important? What is happening there? Let's look. The frontal lobe is the seat of what? Choices, where we're making choices, judgment, reasoning, social norms, like, oh, is that okay for me to do? Oh, I should say thank you. All that's going on. You don't hear your cat doing that, do you? So, anyway, not to pick on cats. Long-term planning, all this is going on in the frontal lobe. All of which helps us we should be making healthy choices, shouldn't we? Healthy lifestyle choices. How many of you have heard the story of Phineas Gage? I think many people have. Railroader way back in the 1800s, he was tamping with a tamping rod, a long piece of metal, and dynamite went off, went through his left side of through his eye, up past and out, like through his brain. And to be honest, to be back in that day and age and he survived is quite amazing. Um, but when you look at his story, before this happened, he was a godly man. He was a family man. He was in church every week, and he held his job at the railroad, and he was so respected. And after that happened, things kind of went downhill for him. He became somewhat of he started drinking, he was running around with the women, and no longer a family man. And what part of his brain had been affected? The frontal lobe, where we do our thinking and reasoning. And so today, as we go through this, I want to ask you, how are we affecting our frontal lobe through the lack of sleep? And how are we doing with our health and our lifestyle? So, common effects of a compromised frontal lobe: can't interpret the Proverbs. Isn't that interesting? So the Bible becomes hard to interpret and understand when our frontal lobe isn't intact. And don't you think that's what the devil wants? And don't you think the devil is going to put as many distractions as possible in our life so that our frontal lobe is not working properly? And diminished ability for mathematical understanding. I have that anyway, so I don't know. And loss of empathy and lack of restraint, boasting, hostility, aggressiveness, all these are side effects of a compromised frontal lobe. And so also loss of sleep is associated with decreased ability to perform tasks. So planning, concentration, motor performances, high-level intellectual skills. So should our kids be getting to bed on time? And yeah, look, they can't think. Study done on 20 students, getting 8 hours of sleep, retained almost, how much? Double of those getting 6 hours of sleep a night. And this is a study done by Dr. Matthew Walker. He's a sleep researcher. And inadequate sleep impact on the immune system, missing how many nights? 1 good night of sleep can compromise the immune system up to how many weeks? 4 weeks? That's incredible. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, this is over the top interesting. I look at this and I go, man, God, you are crazy awesome how you created us. So during the nighttime, what is happening also is, you know how when you maybe go to bed and you put the dishwasher on and let the dishes wash? That's kind of what's happening in our brain. We have this glymphatic system, and the glymphatic system is the cerebral spinal fluid, say that 10 times fast, that is around the brain and the spinal column. The body is making about 500 cc's of this fluid every day, and it's changed out about 3 times a day, and it goes into the liver and it's excreted. So people that have high levels of beta amyloids, which is a type of protein, is found more commonly in like people with Alzheimer's. But that wash that's occurring around our brain and our spinal column, and that's being changed out, that washing cycle, so to speak, guess when that happens? In what stages? The restorative stages are which stages? 3 and 4. During those deep stages of sleep is when this glymphatic this washing system is occurring in our brain. And so if we have, the brain is the most metabolically active organ in our body. When you think of it, we are exposed to making how many choices a day? Thousands of choices every day. The brain is constantly on the move and, thinking. And so just like when you have a party at your house, you cannot be cleaning your house. Just like the brain can't be washing and doing all this when you're up in the daytime and active, it needs to do this when you're sleeping. And so it's so important to get that good, deep sleep so this glymphatic wash can be going on. Isn't that interesting? All this is happening when we're sleeping. So early sleep, human beings are built to be daytime creatures. It's hardwired into our circuitry. When you deliberately try to shift the sleep-wake cycles, it's like having a symphony with two conductors, each one beating out a different time. Your delicate internal rhythms go haywire. You need to treat sleep as precious and fragile thing. And that's Dr. Timothy Monk, who's another sleep researcher that is still alive today. But Creation Health, I don't know if you've heard of that program. Seventh-day Adventists put it together down in Florida. And I've taught their program, and a lot of this material comes from them and Dr. Timothy Monk's materials. But people have asked me, well, what about I work nights? What's it say? Is it good for our bodies? We're not meant to be awake at night. And I've done it. I've been a nurse a long time. I started out working nights, and I was forever tired. I could not sleep in the daytime, and I was always tired. And this is why we're just totally messing up our circadian rhythms, because when is that melatonin released? What kind of setting? Yeah, when it's dark or light, when it's dark out. And so when we're trying to sleep during the daytime, it's not healthy. So early bird payoff, immune booster. Subjects deprived of sleep from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. experience nearly a 30% drop in the immune function. Subjects deprived of sleep from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. experienced how much of a drop? 50%. A drop in immune function. So here again, we want to get to bed early. Early bird payoff impact on academics associated with higher GPA, higher scores on exams, higher grades, and higher academic performances all the way around. So we want to get our kids to bed early. Sleep debt we need versus what we get affects. It affects us physically, mentally, emotionally, and let's see how it affects us physically. This I found very interesting also. So, did you know when you don't get enough sleep, you can have weight gain? Because it damages the ability to assess needed food intake. Have you heard of the hormones leptin and ghrelin? So, leptin makes us feel full, and ghrelin makes us feel hungry. And they just get flipped around. The leptin hormone is decreased when we don't get enough sleep. So are we going to feel full? No, we're going to be hungry. And the ghrelin hormone, we're going to be, again, it's increased, so we're going to feel hungry more often. And so it also reduces regulation of blood sugar and interferes with digestion of carbohydrates. Isn't that interesting? All that happens when we don't get enough sleep. I know I had one HR lady that I was talking with, and we had done these classes and such, and she came back to me, and she just had the hardest time losing weight. And she came back and she said, you know, I finally started going to bed at a decent hour, and I was finally able to get that weight off. So I mean, it impacts in so many areas. Do you think for diabetics, getting sleep is important? If you look at this, wow, majorly, majorly important, because they already have a dysregulation of sugar, and then you add this on top of it. So it increases cravings for high sugar and simple carbs. Wow. So let's get to bed. Sleep loss and weight gain. A sleep deprivation rates surge higher, so do the numbers of overweight, obese people. So human research links sleep loss with weight gain, and published reports associated sleep loss with a, what? 15% decrease in life expectancy. Just think, we're not even going to live as long if we don't sleep as much. How many times I've heard this of people say, I'll just sleep when I'm dead. I've heard so many people say that. So that is true. You will. So anyway, obesity, if you sleep less than 4 hours, 73% more likely to be obese. Less than 5 hours, 50% more likely, and less than 6 hours, 23% more likely. Obesity is more likely the fewer hours of sleep a person gets. Isn't that interesting? We need to be sleeping. This I just came across. Harvard University Medical School published the health issues with sleep loss in 2021. Hypertension, high blood pressure, immune impairment, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, common colds, obesity, sleeping less than 7 hours a night, you're going to be 3 times greater chance of cold symptoms. Because why? What's going on? We're not getting those what stages? The deeper stages, the restorative stages, where the body can have that lymphatic wash, and so we're just not going to heal as well. So it also suppresses our immune system. We're going to look older, and we don't want that, do we? Okay, we need to go to sleep. Increases the risk of various diseases such as diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, chronic pain, dementia, osteoporosis. Wow, all those things when we don't get enough sleep. And then sleep, debt, and mental. Brain is in slow motion. It's just not functioning. Have you ever had it where you're so tired? You just give me just a few moments. Have you ever had that? I have. Embarrassing story. One time when I was at the road, we came back from, we would host these dinners for the guys. And we were, it's the food trough, the eat all you want and you come back. And I was for whatever reason, the sign just went down crossing the railroad, so I had to wait. And that short time, I fell asleep. And I had all these cars behind me. And here I am, the company nurse, and I have all these people. So anyway, micro sleeps, we can be so tired. Just 3 to 10 seconds, brain processes nothing. And we don't get enough sleep, we can't concentrate, remember, pay attention. And we have learning problems, creativity issues. And also increases risk for suicidal thoughts and actions, ADHD, hallucinations, impulse control problems, driving accidents. Do you ever want to discuss an issue with anybody when you're tired? Probably not the best time, is it? And bad lifestyle choices. And also increases irritability, depression, anxiety. And it decreases our energy, motivation, ability to fight stress, less resistant. I think we should quit and go home and go to bed. Don't you think so? As we're reading this. Anyway, let's talk about some sleep thieves. We've learned what can happen when we don't get enough sleep, but what are we doing in our everyday lives that could be robbing us of our sleep? So, what's in our environment? Noise, lights from the TV and computer screens, alarm clocks. I know people that go to bed with the TV on and, computers in the room, just all this stuff. Sometimes a warm bedroom. Can't read that one. Hang on. Most cases, temperatures above 75 degrees Fahrenheit and below 54 degrees will disrupt sleep. But even sleep researchers fail to agree on the ideal temperature. The point at which sleep is interrupted is kind of going to be up to you, isn't it? What's comfortable for you? If you're used to sleeping in Alaska or in Africa, it's going to be a little different. So, anyway, and I here's some other ones. Tobacco, which hopefully nobody in here struggles with, and diet. Caffeine cuts melatonin production in half for how many hours? 6 hours? We sure don't want that, do we, when we've learned how important it is. And also eating too close to bedtime. We shouldn't eat for at least how many hours? 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. We should not be eating. Because who's going to be working in our body? The stomach's going to be working. It's like the semi-truck drivers coming into Walmart at night, and they're unloading, and they have to put everything away. That's kind of like our body. We're eating late at night, and the body has to get busy distributing it all. And then what is eaten, can create heartburn. And then avoid smoking before bed. And again, I did this class for railroaders, and that was a huge thing. And I worked for a construction company. And there too, a lot of chew tobacco and drinking and drugs to get their bodies going. So,
Headline that got our attention tonight about coffee and how much many of us drink every day. Scientists, in fact, looking at that feeling you get when the caffeine wears off. Sometimes that chemical crash so intense, they're now considering it a medical condition. Here tonight, ABC's Susan Salmi.
Ever missed your morning caffeine fix?
Yeah, I ended up with a really bad headache.
You wouldn't want to be around me without caffeine. I'll just put it that way.
We've all been there. And now there's a medical term for it in the American Psychiatric Association's Manual of Mental Disorders. Yes, mental disorders. Researchers want people to know that caffeine withdrawal is real and brings fatigue, headache, and difficulty focusing. Doctors say caffeine, which is a drug, is safe for adults who consume up to about 400 milligrams a day. That's about 4 cups of coffee. ABC's Lisa Stark drank that much and took an MRI to show what it did to her brain. Here's before, and here's after. Her blood flow went down 40% and her blood pressure shot up. The government is worried about the onslaught of newly caffeinated products in almost every aisle of the supermarket, in things like popcorn and hot sauce, even gummy bears. The Food and Drug Administration is considering a crackdown. They're particularly concerned about the effects on children.
Well, the scary part is, all the things that you don't know have caffeine in it that you're not intentionally trying to stimulate yourself with.
Now, several people I talked to today said they were actually glad that caffeine withdrawal is finally being recognized as something real. But others said they remain concerned about possibly being labeled with a mental disorder.
is that not interesting? And how many people do you see with these monster drinks that has how much caffeine in it? And so, it's like I tell these young guys sometimes, it's like whipping your body. It's like a horse at the race. And go, go. That's what these drinks are doing to our poor bodies. So is this you? Are you burning the candle at both ends? How busy is your lifestyle? So the effects of cortisol. The steroid hormone produced by adrenal cortex on top of the kidneys, it's released in response to stress. Have you ever had that policeman come up behind you with the lights on? I'm sure most of us haven't had the lions chasing us, but you may have had the policeman behind you. So that is the release of cortisol that has just happened at that point in time. And it's a natural release, is highest in the morning and drops during the day. We all have cortisol in our body. It's just sometimes it's released a little more abnormally and more heavily. And what natural remedy helps drop cortisol levels? What do you think? We should get 10 minutes of it every day outside. Sunshine, yeah. So we want to get out and get walking. Prolonged stress shifts the cortisol levels to a higher level, creating a new normal in our body, therefore not allowing the body to go through which stages of sleep? 3 and 4. Isn't that interesting? All this stress, when we don't get enough sleep, it's bringing those cortisol levels up in our body to where we can't go through that restorative sleep. Oh, and we don't even know what's going on. Isn't that interesting? So alcohol, here too, probably not too many in this room deal with this, but it's another sleep thief. Some individuals try to overcome the problem of insomnia by drinking alcoholic beverages. I know for one of the companies that I worked with, the CEO and I, we would travel in his private plane and we would go around the country, and every night he would have to have his drink to go to sleep. And so I said, that's not really helping you sleep. And so as we look at this, alcohol inhibits which one? REM, rapid eye movement sleep, and the deeper restorative states of sleep, and therefore does not promote good restful sleep. In turn, it contributes to insomnia. So alcohol is not the drug of choice for sleep by any means. Initially, it's a sedative, that's true, but there's a rebound effect later in the night. And so it relaxes the throat, making snoring worse, and up to 41% reduction of which one? Melatonin with the use of alcohol. Man, alcohol is not the way to be going, should it, for helping us sleep. The effects of sleep deprivation is similar to the effects of drinking alcohol and how we act and work. So sleep things also, again, that statement, I'll sleep when I'm dead. because I've got so many things to get done. Staying up late, stress, anger, anxiety. And did you know staying up late is a learned behavior? I know my grandkids, or even my kids when they were little, when they were tired, what did little ones do? I mean, mine, they would just, I need to go to bed. My grandson still tells me that. He's 9. Nana, I got to go to bed. I'm tired. And so, that's what that's what we should do. Gender, women have twice the difficulty of falling or staying asleep. Why is that, do you think? They what? Yeah. Yeah. It's said that the women have the dresser drawers. We got all these drawers that we're opening and closing, and, women are responsible, for a lot of things in the family. And, oh, I got to get Johnny's clothes ready tomorrow morning. Oh, Sarah's got to go to basketball practice tomorrow. I got all this stuff going on in the brain. And so, yeah, women have more problems. Age, change, and circadian rhythms, health conditions, sleep thieves, snoring, restless leg syndrome, chronic pain, all those are going to be affecting our sleep. And then here too, medications, sedatives, antihistamines, stimulants, cold medications, steroids, antibiotics, blood pressure medications, breathing medications. Meds can keep you awake or cause bad dreams, and it interferes with sleep. So many times people will be put on medications, but what's it doing to our sleep patterns? And I know in one of my papers I have, I know some of you may have heard of Ambien. It's a very popular sleep medication. But some of the studies they showed that when people were on these medications, it really only maybe gave them like 11 minutes more of sleep. It's like, it really wasn't, all that. So I don't know. Get better sleep. How do we do that? Sleep routine, even on the weekends. I don't always do that either. Saturday nights is time to be up. It's just raised that way, but it shouldn't be that way, should it? Every day we should be in patterns. So start an hour before bedtime. And I know my friend Susan and I, we were talking about that. She's very good about that. She starts at 8 o'clock thinking about bed and starting to shut things down. And that's what we should be doing. Turn down the lights, have soft lights late in the evening. I know while I'm staying with her, like the lights are off and I'm having to grope my way through things at night. So she does a good job. Turn off the TV, the computer, the cell phones. Read non-exciting things, the lifespan of the armadillo or something like that. If you're trying to read these, high excitement books or whatever before bedtime, is that going to, slow things down? No. Get items ready for the next morning, kind of plan for the next day. Clear and smooth your mind, relax your body, and also regular sleep and wake times. We should get our sunshine daily, and the best time to be exercising is when? In the morning is preferred. I don't always get to do that, but that's the best time. And then exercise daily, 20 to 30 minutes a day to reduce that stress level and anxiety, but not before bed. We shouldn't be revving up our body, should we, before bed? Sleep environment, we should have a cool, what kind of room? Dark room, that's right. White noise or music at 60 to 80 beats per minute, like the resting heart rate. Sleep with the windows open when you can for that pure air. And then other tips, hydration. We lose water at night. Isn't that interesting? By our breathing. So we should be well hydrated and we will sleep better. Isn't that interesting? If you eat a huge evening meal, it's going to affect your sleep. We talked about that earlier. We should eat like a king at breakfast, a queen at lunch, and a pauper at supper. Don't eat late. And at least how many hours before bed? Yep, 3 to 4. Don't eat. And I don't know if any of you struggle with an overactive brain, at night. But yeah, Barbara O'Neill really hit this one. So I really like some of the things that she talked about. Getting outside early in the morning, don't sleep in. So even if you got to bed late, we should be getting yourself up. Bright light therapy breaks dysrhythmias. And also Exercise induces sweat, where it's a little difficult for you to be talking while you're exercising is the level we should be at. Progressive muscle relaxation, start with a fizz, hold really tight. You can do that through your body to kind of help relax. And these were tips from Dr. Wes Youngberg. Well, we're going to get into more from Dr. Barbara O'Neill. Have you heard of Dr. Wes Youngberg at all? Okay. Yeah, he's got some great programs on wellness. So, how to get out of the chat room in your head when the merry-go-round is on in your brain and you can't sleep. Here's some other things. Don't let your eyes look at the phone. Don't we want to do that? Oh, who could have messaged me during the night? I hear people all the time, they get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and they check their phone. I'm going, why? Wait till the morning. So don't be looking at your phones. Hum hymns, recite Bible verses. And it'd be a good time, just run through those. Focus on spiritual things. And also count backwards and forwards and the sheep and the lions, whoever in your head. And trust God. List all things to be thankful for. We should have loads of lists of things to be looking at. I thought this was so interesting. 80% of Americans sleep with a phone. Isn't that something? 80%. And let's look what happens with that. You should be keeping it out of your sleeping room. And Susan reminded me, just turn it in airplane mode at least, because I've done a whole class on EMF, electromagnetic frequency. I've done a whole presentation on that. It was so interesting learning about all that. And the small doses of radiation we're all getting with our phones in our pockets. And, I have a friend who, she's older. She always would have her phone in her bra right there. And guess which breast got taken off with cancer? And then her sister, same thing. She had her phone right here, and that's the breast that came off. And so we don't want these phones on our bodies all the time. So anyway, keep them at a distance. So keep out of your sleeping room. And electromagnetic frequency exposure and temptation to check messages at night. And I like this. Sunlight, the blue light absorbed by the eyes into our brain by the retina. So that's normal. Sunshine, that kind of blue light is healthy. It's normal. But with the phone, the blue light is on a different frequency. And so the brain says, it's daytime. Wake up. So the screen is right next to your eyes. It's bright, and you're stimulating your brain to wake up. So if you're checking your phones in the middle of the night, when you wake up, don't do that because you're just stimulating it. So schedule for light exposure early mornings. We want a bright light. Will advance the circadian clocks, makes you sleepy earlier. Late afternoon bright light will delay that body clock and makes you sleepy later. So wear dark glasses to minimize the light to the retina, and your body clock is already shifted. So at nighttime, if you do need to be working, have those blue lights on. Avoid bright light at night. Use incandescent light with the lowest wattage possible. So those are all different points to take to get sleepy. And I know Dr. Wes Youngberg talked about, he does a lot of traveling. He was a missionary in Guam for quite a while. And so you come back to America and you've done all that traveling. The best thing is to get the early morning walk. Have that sunshine hit your retina to reset your circadian rhythms. And so for all of us. So follow natural rhythms of sleep. Early to bed, early to rise. Makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. We want to be wise, don't we? And make rest a priority. If you want to fly with the eagles, you better not hoot with the owls, right? Right? So you are the chairman of your board of health. So anyway, that is my presentation on sleep. And here's all the references for all the material in this program. And it just makes us realize how important sleep really is. And again, I struggle too. I work a job, I work a lot of hours, and I'm up late. And it's just hard to shut it down, isn't it? And we really need to. So anyway, okay, that's it, Mr. Tim. And let's have a prayer. And should we pray? It's time for lunch? Or what time is lunch? Okay, okay. Yeah. Oh, of course. You know, I know nothing, Susan. You are more up on that. Ian?
But they do sell LEDs in two different styles. So there used to be the little like swirly tree lights, the CFLs, compact fluorescents, had that what we associate that blue glow, and a lot of people would get them and they hated it because it looked so different from what they were used to. Now you can get LEDs that are in either day white, which is that kind of bluish white color, or you can get them in a warm white. They call them different things, but if you look at the packaging, it don't tell you like either it's going to be kind of a blue color or it's going to be more of an orange color. So so the recommendation is for high productivity areas like offices, kitchens, bathrooms, places where you want good visibility and to be productive, you install the cool light, the day light, and get high watt, whatever. And for your bedroom, or especially for like reading lamps and stuff like that, places where you find yourself sitting to relax and unwind for evenings, the recommendation is to put in the orange lights, and you can also make them as dimmables. So if you have dimmable switches, you can have the lights on in your bedroom, but you keep it at a very low, the minimal. You put them down here, and this is what it's like in your bedroom. Yeah.
Interesting.
That I used to work for Westlake Case Hardware, for those of you that are curious. That's all information that I was told at night. That's not even like whatever, like the recommendation of putting orange lighting in your bedroom or in places, places where you spend time in the evenings. That's secular advice, not even
Interesting.
like health message advice.
Mm-hmm. We should just go to bed when the sun goes down. Yeah. 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 Or take your candle. Yeah. Take your candle with you. Anyway.
I have no problem going to sleep. I can go to sleep. It's staying asleep. The 3 o'clock wake up, I can get in a rhythm where I can tell you what time the clock
Yeah.
is.
It's real interesting you say that, because if you look back, I have an article on this. Back in the day before the electricity and all that came to life, that was a normal pattern. People would go to bed when the sun went down, and then they'd sleep 3 or 4 hours or, whatever, halfway through the night, and they'd wake up. And that's when prolific writing would occur. That's when procreation would occur. And all these awesome things would occur, and then they would go back to sleep for another half the night. And so we are all out of that pattern. But that is normal, believe it or not. You're normal. Yeah. So, but the problem is, people wake up, and then I don't know that they go back to sleep like they used to do. And so, but that used to be how it was. And if you look back at a lot of the awesome literature was written at those times when, go to bed, the sun's down, wake up, and the brain is fresh, and then we'd go back and lay back down. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I've got all kinds of articles on sleep when I. Yeah.
I'm not really winding down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Wesley?
I go to sleep, just like you said, I go to sleep probably 10 o'clock, wake up, just wake up at 3:30, just every morning at 3:30. And then I lay back down and I'm fighting sleep, trying to go back to sleep. But when it's time for me to get up, then it's time for me to sleep. Go to sleep now, because it's time for me to wake up to go to work.
Yeah, and I think too, what's really beneficial, we've got to exercise. You know, exercise is just so important in our plethora of things to help us sleep. And so, and you know, to be well hydrated and to be eating the right foods and not eating stimulating foods. And you know, the devil has so many distractions in so many areas of our life, and I think our sleep is so attacked, you know, just because of what's all available and what's out there. And so, anyway, I'm going to have prayer, and then I want to put a plug in for the 1 o'clock. Is it 1 o'clock? 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock program I'm doing on sugar. You don't want to miss it. And I hope the kids would be in here because I have lots of visual displays. And you know, I battle with sugar too. So, but we're going to learn what sugar does to the body. And so you don't want to miss the 2 o'clock program. Okay, let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity to share one of the major health principles that you've given us, rest. And we know even Sabbath is the rest that we're entering here soon. And we're so appreciative that you love us so much, that you've given us these guidelines and principles to follow. Let us each put them to practice so that we can have our frontal lobe more open and free to commune with you and hear your voice. We ask these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you. I just want to plug this in so it doesn't die before the next one. I need tables. I do. I'll need a couple tables. So the guessing game. And then I need another one here. And it would be good to have the kids in here. Because kids should hear this stuff.
If we were checking all of these, if we were to check for a heart attack, would they want to be transferred to a hospital and have an angio or stay?